All right, strap yourselves in for this one, because today we're diving headfirst into a case that's got more twists and turns than a Hitchcock film. The Black Widow of Lomita, Sonia Rios.
Ooh, this one's a doozy.
It is, and we've been absolutely flooded with your research on this case, which is amazing. Court documents, news reports, we've even got some personal correspondence sprinkled in there. And I gotta say, the more we dug in, the more questions we had.
Yeah, it's funny. At first glance, it seems like just another femme fatale story, But then you start peeling back the layers and, whoa, boy, it's like those Russian nesting dolls. You think you've got it figured out, and bam, another twist pops up.
Exactly. And let's be real, the body count in this story is, well, it's a lot higher than your average Tuesday, that's for sure. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've got to start with Sonia's second husband, Larry Riskin. Successful career, seemed to have a loving marriage, even had plans to adopt Sonia's niece and nephew from the Philippines.
Right, from everything we read about Larry, he sounds like a genuinely good guy.
He does. But then, things take a turn for the worse.
Well, it seems like his desire to adopt those children might have been the first domino to fall, so to speak. We know from his sister Sherry that Sonia kept putting the brakes on the adoption process, and that caused some serious friction in their marriage.
It's so strange how something that seems so positive, like wanting to grow your family, could end up triggering such a chain reaction of, well, awful events.
Absolutely. It's a real tragedy. And when Larry began seeing a colleague, Eileen Stevens, well, that's when things really spiraled out of control.
Because Sonia didn't exactly take it well.
Oh, not at all. She went full scorched earth on him, launched a massive smear campaign.
I'm really curious about this smear campaign. What exactly did it entail? I mean, did she try to ruin him professionally? Or did she go to the authorities with fabricated stories?
From what we can piece together from the documents, it seems like she used a combination of tactics, accusing him of drug abuse, even hinted at domestic violence, which, according to Sherry's accounts, was completely out of character for Larry.
Wow, so it's basically character assassination.
Yeah, you could say that. It's almost like she was trying to discredit him preemptively, setting the stage for something far more sinister.
Okay, now that is a truly chilling thought. And then, not long after, Larry ends up dead in the Philippines.
Right, and the timing of it all, well, it's hard to ignore.
It's beyond suspicious.
Sonia insisted that he go to the Philippines alone to visit the children before she'd even consider a divorce. So Larry goes, and while he's there, he gets a phone call from Sonia. Literally minutes later, he's shot and killed in a hospital parking lot. Gunman on a motorcycle, classic hit.
Yeah, okay, so we've got a suspicious death, no doubt, but what concretely links it back to Sonia?
Well, there's a phone call just before the murder, which is pretty damning on its own. But then there's the eyewitness account from Larry's nephew, Shetmark. He was in the car with Larry, saw the whole thing. He calls Sonia immediately after, and her response, everything is under control.
Chills, literal chills. And let's not forget about the life insurance policies. Multiple policies on Larry, all naming Sonia as a beneficiary.
Yeah, those definitely complicate things. And just when Sherry, Larry's sister, is trying to make sense of his death, she receives an email that changes everything.
This email, it's crucial, right?
Oh, absolutely. Not only does it reveal that Larry wasn't Sonia's first husband to die under mysterious circumstances, but it also hints at a whole other level of darkness in Sonia's past.
Wait, hold on. She had another husband who died. This email, who sent it? What did it say?
It was anonymous, but whoever sent it knew their stuff. It mentioned the death of Sonia's first husband, Earl Bordeaux, also in the Philippines years before Larry.
So 2 husbands, both dead, both in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And now this cryptic email suggesting a possible connection. I mean, who was this Earl Bordeaux? How did he die?
Now, Earl was a Marine, met Sonia while he was stationed in the Philippines. They got married, moved to Lomita, California, but from what we've gathered, their relationship was anything but smooth sailing.
Trouble in paradise.
Oh, yeah, big time. Rumor has it, Sonia wasn't exactly faithful, and Earl, he wanted out.
So far, this is sounding eerily similar to Larry's story.
It is, isn't it? And just like Larry, Earl traveled to the Philippines alone. Sonia wouldn't grant him a divorce unless he went. So he goes to stay with Sonia's relatives, and while he's there, he's shot and killed in his sleep.
Oh my God. Okay, so both husbands are dead, both shot in the Philippines, both on trips that Sonia insisted they take.
Yeah.
And in both cases, she benefits financially.
You're connecting the dots.
It's impossible not to.
After Earl's death, the initial investigation pointed to a break-in. But there was no sign of forced entry. 5 people were arrested, including 2 of Sonia's brothers.
Her own brothers. What the? How does
It's
that?
still wild, right?
Completely.
But here's where it gets even murkier. The charges against everyone were suddenly dropped, leading to all sorts of speculation about a cover-up.
Oh, I bet.
Sonia received a hefty sum from Earl's life insurance policy, and that seemed to be the end of it. At least until Larry's murder brought the whole thing back into the spotlight.
So years go by, Sonia's living her life, and then Larry's murder blows the whole thing wide open. Is that when the media dubbed her the Black Widow?
That's right. The nickname stuck after Larry's death.
It's such a powerful image. It instantly conjures up this idea of a woman who uses her charms to lure men into a deadly trap.
It definitely adds to the intrigue of the case, but it's important to remember that there's a real person behind that label, a person with a very complicated past.
You're right, it's easy to get swept up in the sensationalism of it all.
And as we're about to see, this story takes even more unexpected turns from here. Remember that attempted shooting at Sonia's salon?
Oh, right, someone actually tried to kill her.
They did. A gunman fired a shot, narrowly missed Sonia, then shouted, "I'll be back!"
Okay, now that's just straight out of a movie.
I know, right?
It's unbelievable.
9 days later, Sonia was found dead in her own home, shot in the head.
It sounds like someone was determined to silence her for good. But the question is who? Was it revenge for Larry or Earl? Or was there something else going on that we haven't even touched on yet?
Those are exactly the questions investigators were wrestling with. And as they dug deeper into Sonia's life, they uncovered even more secrets, more tangled relationships, and a whole lot more unanswered questions.
Buckle up, everyone. We're going down the rabbit hole. What other secrets did they find?
Well, one of the most shocking discoveries was the existence of Sonia's secret son, John Bordeaux, born before her marriage to Earl. His existence was completely hidden from the world.
A secret son. This is getting more and more like a soap opera every minute. How did John factor into the investigation? What about those mysterious emails Sherry was receiving? Did they have anything to do with him?
That's where we'll pick up after a quick word from our sponsors. Those emails, they were a real wild card in the investigation. Some of them were signed by someone claiming to be John Bordeaux. And get this, they actually offered to have Sonia killed.
Wait, are you serious? Her own son wanted her dead.
It sounds crazy, right?
It's beyond messed up.
Especially considering John stood to inherit everything from Sonia. But remember, this case is full of surprises. As the police dug deeper, they discovered that John was being framed. Someone else was sending those emails.
Okay, so John's off the hook, for now at least. But if he wasn't behind the emails or Sonia's murder, then who was?
Well, this is where Eric De La Cruz comes into the picture. Remember him? Sonia's great-nephew, the one who sent Sherry that box of Larry's belongings.
Yeah, the one with Larry's Navy medals and photos. Seemed like a nice gesture at the time.
It did, didn't it? Initially, Eric presented himself as just a grieving family member, expressing sympathy for Larry, even calling him Grandpa. But then his actions took a pretty suspicious turn.
What do you mean? What did he do?
Well, remember how desperately Sherry wanted to get Larry's ashes back from the Philippines?
Oh yeah, she was heartbroken.
Eric contacts her, claiming he can help retrieve the ashes. But here's the kicker. He demands $250,000 in return.
You've got to be kidding me. $250,000 for Larry's ashes? That's just heartless.
It is, isn't it?
I mean, what was he even thinking?
It's a bold move, that's for sure. Of course, Sherry refused to pay. But Eric's actions definitely raised some red flags for the police. And don't forget, Eric was in the Philippines when Larry was killed. He was actually there with Sonia and Larry at the hospital just moments before the shooting.
He was right there in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And didn't he also show up at Sonia's house right after her murder?
He did indeed. And to make matters even more suspicious, he tried to claim money from Sonia's estate.
Wow, it's like he was suddenly very interested in profiting from these tragedies. So we've got Eric sending Larry's belongings, then demanding a fortune for his ashes, and now he's acting all shady after Sonia's death. Did anyone ever confront him about all this?
Yeah, a reporter actually cornered Eric and questioned him about his involvement. While he denied killing Sonia, he refused to answer any questions about Larry's ashes.
Sounds like he had something to hide. But if Eric was involved in these deaths, what was his motive? Was it purely financial? Or was there something else going on?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We know money seems to be a recurring theme in all these tragedies. Sonia benefited financially from both her husband's deaths, and Eric tried to extort Sherry and claim money from Sonia's estate.
Yeah, greed is a powerful motivator.
It is.
But what about those emails trying to frame John? Why would Eric go to such lengths to implicate him.
That's another piece of the puzzle we're missing. Maybe he saw John as a rival for Sonia's inheritance. Or maybe there was some deeper animosity between them.
It's like we keep hitting these dead ends. We have all these suspicious characters and potential motives, but no concrete evidence to tie anyone definitively to the murders.
It's true, these cases are often more about connecting the dots than finding a smoking gun. Sometimes the truth is hidden in plain sight. We're just looking in the wrong places.
I guess that's what makes this case so fascinating. It's not just about solving a crime. It's about unraveling this whole web of relationships, motivations, and secrets.
Exactly. And while the investigations into Sonia and Larry's deaths remain unsolved, there is one part of this story that offers a bit of closure. Remember Sonia's first husband, Earl Bordeaux? His family never gave up hope of finding out what happened to him and bringing his remains home.
Oh, right. Earl's brother, Dennis. He was determined to get justice for him. What happened with that investigation? Did they ever find out who was responsible for his death?
Well, while no one was ever charged with Earl's murder, there was a significant development in the case. During the investigations into Sonia and Larry's deaths, a tip led investigators to a small public cemetery in the Philippines.
A cemetery? What were they looking for there?
They received information that Earl's remains might be buried there, hidden behind a crypt wall. They brought in a forensic pathologist, Dr. Raquel Fortune, to examine the site.
And what did they find? Was the tip credible?
It was. They discovered an unmarked sack containing what appeared to be a male skeleton. Dr. Fortune meticulously examined the bones and compared them to Earl's medical and dental records.
That's incredible. But how could they be sure it was Earl after all those years? I mean, skeletons don't exactly carry ID cards.
You're right, but forensic science has come a long way. Dr. Fortune was able to piece together the skull and discovered a bullet hole that perfectly matched the entry point described in Earl's original autopsy report.
Wow, that's like something out of a CSI episode. So they have the physical evidence. But was there any way to definitively confirm the remains were Earl's?
To be absolutely certain, they sent a bone sample to a lab in Ohio for DNA testing. And after months of anxious waiting, the results came back. The remains were indeed Earl Bordeaux's.
It must have been such a bittersweet moment for his family. After 21 years, they finally had closure. But still no justice for his murder.
It's a tragic end to a life cut short. But at least his family was finally able to bring him home and lay him to rest in Iowa.
It's a testament to their perseverance, their refusal to let his story be forgotten. But it also makes you wonder, what other secrets are still buried out there? What else might we uncover if we just keep digging?
That's the thing about these complex cases. They often leave us with more questions than answers. And sometimes the most important thing isn't finding a neat resolution, but rather understanding the intricacies of human behavior and the ripple effects of these events.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the tangled web surrounding Sonia Rios, what are the key takeaways, the lingering questions that we should be left pondering?
Well, for me, this case highlights how easily we can get caught up in narratives. In labels like Black Widow that oversimplify complex situations, it's a reminder to look beyond the surface, to consider all sides of the story, and to recognize that even in the face of seemingly overwhelming evidence, there's always more to uncover.
That's a powerful insight, and it's especially relevant in today's world, where information spreads so quickly and judgments are often made based on incomplete or biased accounts.
Exactly. And while the quest for justice might sometimes be elusive, the pursuit of truth, the unraveling of hidden stories, can be a powerful force in its own right.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that even in the face of tragedy and unanswered questions, there's value in seeking understanding, in piecing together the fragments of a story to get as close to the truth as possible.
It's like we've been on a roller coaster through this whole case, with twists and turns at every corner. We started with Larry Riskin's tragic death, then uncovered the shocking story of Sonia's first husband, Earl, only to find ourselves caught in a web of suspicion, secrets, and ultimately Sonia's own demise.
It's a case that really challenges our perceptions of truth and justice. On the surface, it seems like an open and shut case of a black widow preying on her husbands. But when you delve deeper, you realize there are so many layers to this story. So many unanswered questions.
Exactly. And while we may never know for sure what truly transpired, what motives drove these events, there's a certain power in acknowledging the complexity, the ambiguity of this story.
It's a reminder that real life doesn't always fit neatly into a box, that there are often shades of gray where we expect to find black and white.
And it's in those gray areas, those spaces of uncertainty, where we're often forced to confront our own biases, our own assumptions about human nature.
So as we reflect on the Black Widow of Lomita case, what can we take away from this deep dive? What are the enduring lessons, the questions we should keep asking ourselves?
For me, it's a reminder to be wary of easy answers, to resist the urge to label or judge individuals based on incomplete information. This case demonstrates how easily narratives can be constructed, how quickly suspicion can turn into condemnation.
And it's a stark reminder of the enduring power of the past, how secrets and hidden truths can resurface years, even decades later, with the potential to reshape our understanding of events.
The discovery of Earl Bordeaux's remains after all those years is a testament to the resilience of truth, the way it can emerge even from the most unlikely places.
It's a story that underscores the importance of perseverance, of refusing to let go of the search for answers, even when the trail seems to have run cold. It really makes you think, what if Earl's remains had never been found? Would Sonia have gotten away with everything?
It's a chilling thought, isn't it? It's entirely possible that her secrets would have stayed buried forever.
It's like sometimes it takes a totally unrelated event to crack open a cold case.
Exactly. The renewed interest in Sonia, triggered by Larry's murder, it was like a domino effect, leading to the discovery of Earl's remains, and finally bringing some peace to his family.
It just goes to show, even when a case seems hopeless, even after all those years, the truth has a way of coming out.
It always does, and it reminds us that even the smallest details can be crucial. Remember that seemingly insignificant phone call Sonia made to Larry right before he was killed.
Oh yeah, that always struck me as odd, like she needed to confirm he was in position before giving the go-ahead.
Precisely. And then there's the fact that both Larry and Earl traveled to the Philippines right before their deaths, trips that Sonia insisted upon.
It's like she had a playbook, a set of rules she followed for each husband.
It's a pattern that definitely warrants further investigation. And it raises even more questions about Sonia's motives. Was it all about the money? Or was there something darker, more sinister at play?
Revenge. Or maybe she was trying to protect herself from something. Or someone.
The possibilities are endless, and that's what makes this case so frustrating, but also so captivating.
I know, it's like we're right on the edge of figuring it all out. But we're missing a few key pieces of the puzzle.
We may never know for sure what happened, why these men lost their lives. But even without definitive answers, there's still value in exploring these questions and grappling with the complexities of human behavior.
It's a story that forces us to confront the darker side of human nature.
Absolutely. It makes us question our assumptions about the people around us and the secrets they might be hiding.
It's like that saying, everyone has a story. And sometimes those stories are way darker and more complicated than we could ever imagine.
So true. And as we've seen in this case, those stories can have far-reaching consequences, impacting lives for generations.
Well, as we wrap up our deep dive into the case of the Black Widow of Lomita, what's the biggest takeaway? What's the lasting impression this story leaves on us?
For me, it's a reminder that truth can be incredibly elusive, that justice isn't always served, and that even in the face of tragedy, there's power in seeking understanding.
It's a story that encourages us to question our assumptions, to look beyond the surface, and to never give up on the search for answers, even when the trail seems to have gone cold.
The Black Widow of Lomita case is a story that will stay with us long after this deep dive ends. It challenges our perceptions of justice and truth, and reminds us of the complex web of relationships that shape our lives.
And ultimately, it leaves us with a question that echoes through the years. Who was Sonia Rios? Was she a mastermind, a cold-blooded killer, or was she a victim of circumstance, a woman trapped in a web of her own making?
We may never know for sure, but one thing is certain. Her story serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes the most captivating mysteries are those that remain unsolved, those that force us to confront the enduring enigmas of human nature.
And with that, we leave you to ponder the many layers of the Black Widow of Lomita case. We encourage you to dig deeper into the sources we shared, to weigh the evidence, and to draw your own conclusions about this complex and ultimately tragic tale.